You've got to fight for your right to party.
And we're recording now. Welcome to the Nerd Herd podcast, post Podluck. Eddie, Sarah, and Amy are all here, all healthy, all fully recovered from last week's Podluck, which I thought went pretty well. I kind of liked it. It was funny. One of the comments I saw, I forget who it was, said, I didn't learn much, but okay, I was there.
Did they learn much on the other weeks?
Yeah.
Right. Isn't that our podcast theme?
Most importantly, did they give us 5 stars?
Yeah. That's the right question to the question, or the right question to the comment. I'm not quite sure where we set the bar for this, but I thought we hit it on the Podluck.
To be fair, by the way, that was our first time meeting many of our listeners, and it was a lot about learning about them because we don't know much about them. So
no, and I'm suddenly learning that now that we're on video, I probably should wear a different shirt that doesn't have like this kind of weird effect on the screen.
Oh boy!
All right.
Live and learn. Well, today you and I did our hair.
You want to go change? We can wait.
Oh, is he going to wear his wedding dress?
All right. Yeah, that's great, Sarah.
Oh my God.
And welcome to the Shirtless Podcast.
No. But the podcast is available. I think we're up to 19 subscribers on YouTube TV. Or I'm sorry, nerdherd.tv, which points to our YouTube page. So I think that's a 100% increase week over week.
Yeah.
Huge.
That is huge.
It's exponential growth.
But one big miss is what the hell happened to our Denmarkian friends? I mean, we were doing so good
I
there.
feel personally very let down and hurt. I wore a wedding dress, Greg.
You had dreams.
I put my best face forward for this effort, and my prince did not come. Is pretty much the story there.
And YouTube order brides are harder to come by in this time.
They are, but I was really impressed, Sarah, that you went the extra mile. If there was an award for MVP for the Podluck, I would give it to you. You certainly came through and you committed to wearing the wedding dress, and you did.
Yeah, or at least best dressed. I'll take best dressed.
Oh, I don't know if I go that far.
I do so. I think that Greg was the best cook in all of our entire thing. Like, you get the award, Greg, by a mile.
Yeah,
I think I took it most seriously. Well, Gracely would have been a slam dunk, right? If all he had to do is show up.
All he had to do was show up. He had one job.
And he got beat by mac and cheese.
He got beat by Stouffer's.
Those are fighting words. That's going to be.
We were just let down. We were really let down in a lot of ways, I have to say. But at least our loyal listeners came through, showed up. It was fun to hang out with them. Felt a real sense of camaraderie on the call, and I truly did enjoy getting to know everybody and just like hanging out in a way that felt. I don't know. We're all on this story is boring at this point, but we're all on a lot of Zoom calls at work, with family, with whatever other organizations we belong to. I think everybody's feeling a little Zoom fatigue. But honestly, this experience was a lot less exhausting. I think just because of the nature of it was so unstructured and chill that it was super fun.
It was, and I enjoyed when we did the roundtables and asking the folks that were participating questions and pulling them into the conversations. And that's what it kind of prompted me to think about, what if we did this monthly, like a kind of a monthly happy hour? And that was our episode. Maybe it's the last episode every month or the first one every month. I'd like to do it just as a regular kind of just a check-in, make it less about us and more about what our friends in the community are up to and what they're doing.
Our fellow herd, if you will.
Yes. The herd. The herd is more than just us.
The herd is the word.
And speaking of herds, now apparently you can get a llama or a goat to your corporate Zoom meeting for under $100.
I think my favorite thing about this story is the name of the project, which is Goat to Meeting.
That's genius.
That and the screenshots of people talking all in a Zoom call with a random goat or llama. Just the best. Just the best.
Maybe we can have the Spanish version be "Como te llamo." Just like that.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Maybe we could provide a service where you can get a Nerd Herd podcast host for $25 and a beer. Do you think there's a demand for that?
Yeah.
I'd show up.
No. we can still try.
One person.
Well, you just pick one of us, and we'll crash your meeting. We'll make it 10 times more entertaining than the stuff you were going to talk about, and we'll just throw out random questions and challenge people.
Yeah, no, sure, why not?
We might have to pay people to take you up on that offer.
It's
though.
true. We better establish if the $25 comes to us or if we owe them $25.
Right.
No, actually, the $25 will go to our legal defense fund.
That seems reasonable.
What I really want to know is the goat or llama in question that is randomly appearing on these corporate business calls offering value to the conversation? Like, are they coming in and creating some innovative ideas around what's being discussed?
I want to know if they're under NDA.
Yeah, that's a better question. Because the value statements are really tough ones here. I know that we all participate in calls, and then sometimes, people want to know how those calls are going, and we're like, yeah, nobody really added any value there, but the llama did.
Yeah, right.
This is what I'm thinking.
And what if the llama and the goat aren't real? They're just videos of a llama and a goat making it look like they're part of your call. How would you know? You can't ask the goat a question.
I think you're ripped off at that point.
I think there's live interactive opportunity with the goat or the llama, but by way of the handler. So I think they actually are, like, on one call it said, and there's a story in Business Insider, in case anybody's interested, and we'll link to it in Slack. But the story says that on one call, the people on the Zoom call had their kids on the conference call as well, and then they got like a tour of Sweet Farm, which is the location, and I think it's in California where they're doing this from. So there is proof of real time.
So there is a value add there. So if I translate this back to our own opportunity here, for $50 you get Sarah in a wedding dress to attend your Zoom call.
Yeah, I'd pop into a Zoom call for $50
and
for my wedding dress. And for $100, I'll put on the Christian Dior. How about that?
How much is the package for the tour?
I have two wedding dresses
of Casa de Vela?
We'll see. I don't know. That's a
now
little
we've
much.
taken it a step too far.
Well, my kids would have to consent, because they're stuck in the house here with me. So I don't know how much Eli wants to be seen in the living room on his Xbox in the middle of a Casa de Vela tour.
I thought that's what it was all about. It's like you got to be streaming, like you got to be on the internet. You can be like famous, Twitch. Like Twitch. Just convince them that they will become internet famous if they do this.
Does this hold on? Does this mean we're iterating and we've got Nerd Herd cribs now? Is this what we're doing?
Oh yeah.
Podcasters, they're just like us.
This is where the magic happens.
Oh boy. Well, apparently we also have resolution to the great space debate. Microsoft Word now flags double spaces as errors.
Thank you. Thank you. Not since high school did anybody think that was correct. I am a longtime professionally trained proofreader and copy editor. I can quote from various sources because I used to have to when I made choices, and 2 spaces was always wrong. I can find and replace like a boss. Because no. So yes, thank you. Thank you for getting with the times.
I got to say, though, Microsoft really taking a stand is when they actually are able to do the Oxford comma. That will be the day that they've finally taken a position.
Okay, Eddie, I'm going to ask you for some help here because I want to know if you can wire the program to, if you don't use the Oxford comma, it shocks you if you try to get rid of it. Like, can you have the keyboard go zzzt?
Absolutely.
Great question for Amy. Are you pro Oxford comma or anti Oxford comma?
Pro.
Oh,
like there's a choice.
I'm anti.
Oh.
There's no choice. It should be shocking you all day long, Greg.
I am not a fan of the Oxford comma at all.
Oh my God. Eats, shoots, and leaves. Yeah. No. That's just the classic one. No.
So
sorry, Greg, you're wrong. I mean, I'd like to be open-minded, but I'm not.
If you guys see a letter or a post or anything from me with the Oxford comma on it, you know I'm
You had
dead.
a ghostwriter?
Yeah, something bad has happened to Greg. That's the clue. That's the tip-off.
Not to make it political, but I may take something from leadership here and just grab a Sharpie and amend it and then take a picture like it was edited in real time. Just going to throw that out there.
Oh, thank God you guys don't work at the same company. That would be a disaster.
We could never get anything done because we just ping pong edits back and forth.
Yeah.
Amy replies back to a thread that you send to 5 people, and she's like, "Sorry, Greg, have to make a correction, fix that for you," and then sends it to the rest of the group.
I'll screenshot his slacks.
Oh, good times.
Sarah, where do you fall on this?
I'm very much in the it depends camp. So I will allow it, depending. I know. Look at the horror on the faces.
Like Zoom app.
Yeah. Yes, I know. So yes, it's just as horrifying. No, I will make a case for it or against it. I deal with content from submitting, contributing authors to our blog posts or to our blog property every day. And we have people who write in different styles. And I have come down on the side of allowing for different styles but correcting where it doesn't make sense. So
that is fair.
I'm just tuned into, if it's a confusing sentence, I will add a comma. But I will rarely ever remove it.
I was really hoping that was the purpose of the 9mm in your closet. Like, you left out
to shoot those contributing authors through the screen, so it really wouldn't serve me well.
All right.
Mama, please put these guns in the ground.
And Eddie, I'm assuming that you're very much for the Oxford comma.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I can't help your Indiana education.
Did anybody here actually put 2 spaces after a period after they got out of high school? Anyone?
No, I don't know where that started.
When you say after they got out of high school, I have to explain to you how old I am again, because after I got out of high school, there were still 2 spaces after the period. And that continued for quite some time. So
no, it's true. To be fair.
So the answer to that question is, after I learned how to write for the internet, I no longer had more than a single space after a period, because that's really where that change happened, right? Was in online print.
Well, and book print, because book print is not going to waste. Do you know how much extra you would have to pay in paper?
Sure. Extra
That's
spaces
why,
all over the place.
Yeah, I was in book publishing.
But for term papers and other stuff that I wrote in college, two spaces after a period was the norm the entire time I was in college. I am old.
No, I am also old. I tried to fight it even then. Like I am against it. My eye wants to grab all the words together. And I'm a terrible typist too.
Wow.
So.
Well, I've got some good news for you guys. We can move on past this Oxford comma debate. Mary Meeker has come out of the closet and has presented her great coronavirus trends report. And if you guys follow Mary at all, she annually gives her her view of the internet world every year. And I'm not a big fan. I know a lot of people follow everything and hinge on every word that Mary Meeker presents. I'm not particularly a fan of it. I think her annual reports are a lot of, content and information, not really terribly insightful into what the future looks like. But it doesn't matter what I think about it. The rest of the world does follow it. But I will say her coronavirus.
It only matters for you, Greg.
Her coronavirus report is full of type statements. A quick summary of it. For one, COVID-19 has upended our modern lives in ways we're just starting to understand.
Wow, there's a rich takeaway.
Point number
Sounds like
two.
we should have her on the podcast.
Point two. Prior epic viruses have permanently changed the world, but coronavirus may prove less impactful because of our information sharing and scientific technologies. Not terribly earth-shattering.
I don't. And also, like, I'm not sure I agree or even follow the logic there.
Strongly disagree. Yeah.
Yep. Next.
Scientists and other domain experts are getting, quote, more seats at the table.
Next, skip, false.
No. Next.
Digital transformation. Digital transformation is accelerating due to so many people working from home.
No.
New work-life balances are being struck.
Okay, so...
See, I'm really in the camp as a long-time work from home person. I loved how somebody said, this is not typical work from home. I do want to see more people hire where talent is. And I've heard many words from many companies that they're going to do that now. Many of us have been remote from central HQ in our lives, in our working lives. This is not typical work from home. This is work from pandemic. And that's a different situation than working from home. The hours are different. The tasks are different. The stress level, what you handle in the background is different. But I just don't think it's the same.
Do you think, and I've got an opinion about this, but I won't share it yet. Do you think digital transformation is accelerating? I mean, you're not, I don't disagree with anything you just said there, Amy.
Yeah.
But is it still facilitating and accelerating digital transformation?
I think it will change work in a couple of ways. I think it will accelerate digital transformation. I will grant that. I don't think that's a big, because I think it will poke holes in some businesses that were running ways that weren't either sustainable or smart. And that classic, like, you always meant to clean out the closet, but you didn't. Now you take the time to do it. Or it's you always meant to change your business processes or update, but there was not a forcing function. And as much as we'd like to say humans do the best and the right things, I think oftentimes we have to be forced to do them. And in some cases, we're going to do things that are way more logical, good for the earth, just smarter. Do I miss people? Do I miss going out of my home? Absolutely. And do I want us all to be well? 100%. But do I think this will make businesses make better choices to survive? Oftentimes, yes.
All right. Sarah has got a look of disgust on her face.
Well, because, look, digital transformation is accelerating. Put the period there, and then a single space.
Well played. Well played.
Because, listen, I think this has huge implications for commercial real estate, because I think as corporations shift to a work from home model, they're realizing that, oh, hey, we could save a lot of money doing this.
Yeah, we don't need as big a footprint as we had before. Yep.
It means that there are going to be some shifts in how the infrastructure is, how the business infrastructure is put together in order to support a mobile workforce, right? So that changes the dynamics a little bit. But the data, the volume of data that's being managed isn't going to change because people are at home instead of in the office.
Right.
It's the same amount of data. It's just we're shifting where we're working from. So there are things that have to be, there's security measures that have to be beefed up. There's some more cloud infrastructure for some businesses, but not all. That maybe you can make an argument that that's digital transformation. But to me, that's an argument that there's infrastructure models and cloud architecture models for corporations that are changing, not digital transfer. Like, I really think that we use this expression digital transformation too much anyway.
Yeah.
And like, it just doesn't mean what we think it means anymore, or nobody really knows exactly what it means. Everybody has a different idea about what it means. But I think digital transformation is accelerating is where you end that sentence. But that was true before, and it's going to be true after.
I hear you, Sarah, and I hear you're saying VDI, VDI, VDI.
Well, the year of it.
All right, the next.
I mean,
go ahead.
Hold on. I mean, I want to see, like, the theme of this is just, it's rubbing me the wrong way, because it feels like this person, Mary, is only talking about jobs in corporate America, which, like, just this last week, there were 26 million people that filed for unemployment. And if you look at the rate of people increasing to apply for unemployment, roughly by the next 3 quarters, half of the workforce will be out of a job if we continue on this pace. Now, look, we all know that things are kind of changing, fluid, like flattening the curve, yada, yada, yada. But still, just think about, like, digital transformation to me includes not only, you know, white collar workers who can perform a job function sitting there, but like the whole, you know, sharing economy, our grocers, how we get groceries, that's all changing. And not only that, but I want to know what percentage of families have kids that have no ability to do remote learning right now because they either don't have good enough computers. They don't, like, fundamentally that thing of like, it's going to accelerate digital transformation. Yeah. If these people get fucking computers, like, yeah, like there's a lot of dependencies here. So yeah, in the enterprise space, and I get, you know, she might be writing for a certain audience, but fundamentally there's a lot more to transform. That's probably not really transforming. They're kind of getting left by the wayside.
It's a good reminder that it puts a really stark line between people with access to certain resources and people without. The damage we saw done to the middle class over the last few years, I think the gap unfortunately widens, and that is going to be something we have to figure out.
Yep.
No disagreements. The next bullet point, this may become the, quote, call to arms to better marry technology with healthcare.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's changed in a way it will never go back because people never liked staying in the waiting room. Sarah's Instagram posts aside, but enough time and enough waiting rooms. And this is transformational. Telemedicine is a great idea because it inherently separates. Let's say you've got a simple sickness that you really never wanted to go in the doctor for because you kind of knew what was going on and you just needed some medicine for strep throat that you didn't want to give to everybody else.
Right.
My pediatrician's office for years has done a sick room and a well room, and even that simple act made me feel better, right? They're just apart from each other, so a sneeze would probably carry. But again, maybe culturally we'll change and start to wear face masks when we're unwell so that we protect those around us. But anyway, just that simple act made me feel better about taking my kids there for well checks when they weren't sick and for sick checks whenever we weren't going to contaminate somebody who's just there to get their physical to play sports.
Right.
So I think that is, for me, what telemedicine can do. Yes. It can create a sick waiting room that you may not need to go in, but you do need care. And maybe it would work better, again, when Eddie talks about the gap, could potentially open up opportunities for people who can't take time off from work to go get something attended to so that it doesn't get worse. Yeah.
Yep.
The last point here.
I think this.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say quickly that I think healthcare and education, to Eddie's earlier point, are the two industries that are most ripe for disruption. Forgive the expression. That could be impacted and by this virus in particular, right? Like those two things. I wish this whole bullet list was focused a little bit more on those two industries, but I think that's a great point, Amy.
The last bullet point I have here is, quote, we are optimists and believe there's hope on the other side of despair. We need government, business, and entrepreneurial intervention at scale deployed logically and effectively to get to the other side. To me, another comment. Right.
Yeah.
Not terribly insightful or something that isn't really intuitive to people that are paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, and also I think what would be good for people who are paying attention is to state the magnitude that is required of change versus just saying change is required. Like, I think those are the obvious things, right? But the magnitude at which you need these things to actually change and support things, it's on an order of magnitude much, much higher than it is now. And that's not really getting any press either.
No.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a 28-page report that's being summarized here by Axios. So I don't think any of us has read the actual report. So it could be just did you? I mean, maybe there's a little bit more detail or insight in here from the Bond team, but I agree essentially, Greg, that it's pretty. Yep.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
Uh-huh.
Well,
she should have said that this is the year of EDI. Then it would have been really the best report.
Then it would have been earth-shattering, honestly.
That would have been amazing.
And then you would have seen all kinds of marketing dollars just flushing down the toilet. That's transformation for you. So anyway, let's talk about something more positive. Or maybe this is less positive. Apparently Google, this is according to TechCrunch, apparently Google ditched a tipping feature for donating money to news sites and other sites. But it looked like it was primarily focused around news sites, which I thought was kind of an interesting idea. Not a wholly bad idea either. The option would have given you the ability to remove ads from the sites that you're going to. And I have an ad blocker anyway, so some of these sites I pop up say, oh, no luck, you can't read our stuff with your ad blocker on. And I just go read it from a different source. So I kind of like the idea of the tipping site, or just these micropayments as you're consuming content. Not the worst idea in the world, but Google ditched it. It's funny, on the flip side of this, Google and Facebook are now going to be forced to pay media for content reuse, potentially in Australia.
Now, does that apply just to like the Google News part, where they're doing the like the kind of AMP or whatever it is, where news is coming? I mean, obviously Facebook, it's like a captive portal, but on the Google side, is it just pay for news to be included in the search results, or what?
My interpretation was the search results, which kind of makes me scratch my head. And it's funny how, and so, and I've got a very, very, very conservative opinion about this, is when it comes to how news sites, their business models really have not evolved past newspapers. And I think there's so much value that they can deliver. And let me just think out of the box here. And since we're all relatively in the same industry here, one of the things that every vendor is struggling to do is find audience and how they're engaging that audience. The de facto kind of thing was, conferences and other ways of that direct face-to-face communication. Now we're in an era where we're going to virtual. You would almost think that the news media, who understand their audiences and subscribers pretty well, could almost provide a service to vendors that are looking for virtual opportunities to engage. And I don't see them delivering. Some are, but a lot of them, the majority of them, are still based on advertising models to their website. They're not being creative. I think about tech media particularly, and I think about the tech conferences that we're all actively engaged in. I mean, what if TechCrunch got into the virtual content business, or the Register? And the Register does some already. But if we think about the tech publications we're reading today and their lack of connective tissue to the challenges that vendors have today, I'm shocked that they haven't evolved their business models to adapt to this very obvious opportunity sitting right in front of us. It amazes me.
I mean, I see a career in your future, Greg. You should take this pitch to tech media.
No,
a brand.
I won't mention names, but I've had discussions in the past with news organizations and news media sites, whether we're talking about podcasts or other types of content, and their gut instinct is to go right to a CPM model. And I hit my head on the desk. I'm like, you're not getting it. You're missing the revenue opportunity. And it baffles me. And I do have ideas about this, but I've presented other ideas. And this is way, I'm talking years ago, about ways of how they should be looking at the value of content and value it differently based on industries, particularly just separating out the idea of consumer tech from enterprise tech, because the dollar values of those type of engagements are very different, but they all lump it together at eyeballs and eyeball, regardless of where that eyeball is coming from. And so that's why I think CPM measurements have failed tech media.
So your point isn't necessarily doing things where you're munging advertising content with editorial. It's really around the concept of the fact that just how you measure engagement in order to monetize that it needs to be distinct in terms of who's reading what content you're putting out.
That's right. It's not terribly difficult, I don't think.
Right.
At a super, and they're not adapting, and so I think about when it makes my toes curl every time I hear about news sites whining about how Google is stealing their business, And they're not, because Google could just as easily not, and I wish they would, because I think it would be kind of funny. If Google said, you know what, all right, if you demand us to pay it, we're just not going to include you in our content. Problem solved. Now, Google doesn't want to put that line in the sand, and the media doesn't think that Google has the guts to go that far with it. But what if, unpopular opinion, Google actually charged the news sites for adding their content in a curated format to absorb, let's say Google News. Pick whatever news aggregator.
Apple News,
want.
Google News, whatever. Yeah.
Right. What if they charged? Because ultimately, each of those organizations are charging advertising, and there's a bit of arbitrage that goes on here. And I know it's an extreme measure. I don't really mean it, but if you think about the value that Google is bringing to those organizations, because they have not evolved their business model. Now they're pointing the finger back at Google as being the demon here. And I've been accused of being a Google fanboy, but I like the services that Google provides, but I also understand there's a cost to it, right? Whether it's our privacy or other things. And there's a service that Google's providing here to these news organizations that they get some value out of it. I shouldn't say they don't get any value out of it. But the fact that these news organizations are leaning back on Google to be their savior or Facebook to be their savior is the wrong business model. They're still thinking like CPM.
Well, what if there was, excuse me, sorry, if there was no news, would there be a Google? It's symbiotic, right?
Not
you need
completely.
each other.
I think people at least initially started off using Google to find content on the internet, wherever it was,
right.
Whether it's news sites or other things. You're right. More people often now, I think it's evolved to where people are using their search engines as the vehicle for finding news and other types of information, more timely information.
Right.
So I don't think it's completely symbiotic. I think the news organizations need Google more than Google needs them, if that's the question you're asking.
Nowadays, I think that's a good point. Like, I think the coin has flipped, right? The tables have turned a bit where once Google has now become the portal to you finding out about news, now the tables have turned and the news organizations lean more. So the times have changed, obviously.
Well, and just to create a bit of an analogy, I think this is where it's complicated, particularly because this is the right to a free press is such an innate thing, and we have such complications right now in terms of what news we can trust and what we value. So I certainly want people paid enough to both have a passion for the truth, whatever that may be, and to be paid enough to not be swayed, as much as one can possibly, balance those human drives. I think about what happened to the music industry, and hear me out on this one, because there were many things that went wrong there, and the whole industry in some ways didn't see it coming or react quickly enough. But the interesting thing that I hear from musicians over and over is their money is made through live performance, which is really interesting and terrifying right now, because the publishing rights to songs don't have the same value they did. The Spotify model doesn't pay them worth anything, even though I'm a Spotify addict and I love what it brings to me. I don't buy music anyway but digitally or stream it at this point, but I do still go see live music. I'm thinking about what that analogy means and for us in terms of a free press and media. What is it that we really value most of all that we're willing to pay for? Because that's what my analogy sort of drives me to think about, right? We've decided that artistry and music, we value the songs, we love the songs, we like them on demand, but we're willing to pay $300, maybe not anymore, to see the Rolling Stones after the air drumming concert, but we're willing to pay $300 to see like a legend, or a legendary group. And even less than that, we're willing to pay $10, $20 at our local pub to see somebody new and up and coming as a cover charge without even blinking. Whereas we hesitate, we can't. Our relationship with news has not evolved yet. Maybe we want to know what's going on. We want to know the truth, air quotes, whatever that might mean for us, but we aren't quite sure. They haven't figured out a model that we can all live with either.
No, I don't think it's a journalism problem. I think it's a journalism business problem. I separate those out because there's a lot of great journalists out there that do great work.
Well, there's a lot of great musicians too, but they don't necessarily get paid for their work. So I think the analogy holds a little bit in that we all need to come up with a way to pay people for their art.
It's hard because there's there's so many musicians and there's so many news outlets. There's a point at which, I can't pay for everything. So, I have a subscription to the New York Times. I have a subscription to the Washington Post. I have a subscription to the New Yorker. I have a subscription to the Atlantic. Like those, I pay for all of those.
Now we know who's supporting the news industry.
I'm about halfway.
And I subscribe to the local newspaper slightly against my better judgment, but just because it's the right thing to do. So I pay for an Austin American Statesman subscription. That's 5 news outlets that I pay for. But I read news from sites all day long, every day that are outside of that list of subscriptions. If I were to try to pick 5 musicians that I pay, quote unquote, paid for, I'm not going to only listen to those 5 musicians. So how does it pay? Do I pay a penny a song? Do I pay 10 cents an article? Like, where does it end? Where I'm supporting this?
I do think the one difference, though, is that when you're talking about news, like you have 5 that you can list, but when you're where the parity with music falls down is that music is, by definition, everything is pretty much unique, even if it's a slight variation or if it's a decent variation. Whereas news, a lot of times, like you have a couple major perspectives that you're going to go look at, and it's not really like there's 3,200 of different perspectives on the same thing that you're going to cover. The only other parallel, though, is that there is so much stuff to cover in terms of news and consume that's why there's so many different outlets. But I was going to say, in general, when you look at the way that we've paid for news since the dawn of time, like we never really ever paid for news. We never really valued news. And if you look at things like the BBC, like people pay for that through their little TV fee that you have to pay for your TV. Like that's how they get the news to you. And we never really had that here.
It's government subsidized.
Exactly, because it's viewed as an important thing, right? So I don't think we have that here. And so I do question, A, like, is there going to be a consolidation? And B, if there's not a consolidation of a lot of news to where the volume goes down, where we know where to put our dollars, will it ever happen?
I know you guys, we're all trying to solve the same problem here. I just don't think that the news media, the ownership of these news media, understand the value of their own audiences beyond just the traditional newspaper model.
Yes.
And that's just
they're dinosaurs, dude. They are dinosaurs.
Yeah, they are.
That's a problem that could the energy. It's one more time the industry could collapse underneath them.
Yep. All right, let's get moving along here. So, Amy, you're watching a new show. What's your new show?
I would like to drop the mic, everyone. I am watching television. It is called Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, recommended by a soccer buddy of mine. And my girls and I just finished Gilmore Girls. This was written or directed and produced by Lauren Graham, better known as Lorelai from the Gilmore Girls. And it's awesome. And people just break out into songs. So if you are a fan at all of musicals and sort of ridiculousness, this television show, I think it got some props, but was a little bit under the radar. It streams on any NBC. It's hilarious.
I've seen the commercials for it. It looked like it had potential, but I have never seen it. So I'll have to pay attention to it.
This is for all our techies. It takes place in like a San Francisco startup environment. They have an all-you-can-eat cereal bar. They make left coast kinds of jokes that all of us would appreciate, whether you work on the left coast or remote and drop into your office. It's hilarious. You will be like, oh, wow, I know these people.
Fantastic. I'm all in. I'll watch it. I'll give it a try. I'll dip my toes in the water on that based on Amy's advice. But I'm also very curious that, Eddie, rumor has it that you're starting to wind down your surveillance state around your house.
Yeah. So I've been consuming Ubiquity's networking stuff for a long time, and I replaced all of the Ring cameras outside the house with Ubiquity cameras, and that's where you got a device in your house that records to it. But they finally came out with a doorbell. And so I was able to ditch my Google Nest camera, which I actually just bought 2 months ago because the Ring camera kept failing. So anyway, if anybody wants a free Google Nest camera, hit me up. Watch, I'll get
I might
a ton
take
of
you up on that.
Anyway,
how much would you sell that before? The thing is, I'm against Nest. Are they the ones, or which one is it that is like reporting back to police stations?
Ring primarily. That's why I didn't get another Ring camera. But not Nest. I mean, there's been nothing. Google's been pretty quick.
I'll buy it from you.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you. So anyway, I ditched that, and then I just accepted an offer on my house in Indy, which it's ironic because before all this drama. Yeah, thanks. It's a huge weight. I had to drop the price by a ton, but hey, you got to get things to move in this climate. But that house, ironically, before all of the Ring drama happened with all the privacy stuff, I had like a backyard camera, a front yard camera, because I'm not there all the time, right? So I wanted to know if like anybody's breaking into my house. So anyway, I said to the realtor, hey, by the way, you can tell the new owners that they get all the Ring cameras for free. And he's like, yeah, they'll take them. I'm like, sweet Jesus, thank God I don't have to unscrew all those cameras.
Remove all that.
Yeah, so now they're going to be a part of the government state around that house there.
Very good.
Perfect.
Very good. But I do want a doorbell camera. I think I told you I've got a freestanding one that points out my window toward the front door.
Yeah.
I can record everything locally with that. There's no cloud storage with it, so I can go.
Who needs that right now? We're all our own best nosy neighbors.
No, yeah. Well, maybe you need it now more than ever, not knowing if it's like, somebody to invade you or the delivery man.
Yeah, when people start coming for my food and my toilet paper, I need a camera to capture them.
But yeah, I will say the Google Nest experience is pretty awesome. And did you say a while ago that you had the little LCD Google Nest Home devices too? Did you have one of those, Greg?
No, I used to have a Lenovo smart display. And I gave it away because it had a camera on it, and I wasn't comfortable with. It had a slide that you can kind of slide the camera, but I was never certain if it was capturing audio or not. So, and then my neighbor accidentally hacked into it or connected to it somehow and streaming. Well, the neighbor girl was streaming her music to my smart display, and I'm like, how the fuck? And I'm like,
I love this story
because it advertises itself, right? So you can go ahead and say,
not right. So I think she accidentally had her Spotify. So all of a sudden, I'm listening to this like J-pop music coming through.
Shake it up.
It wasn't even good stuff. It was J-pop, and I was just like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, like the Nest cameras, I like it. It's heads and heels above the Ring stuff, but I've moved on from that boat. So I'll hit up the postman and see if he'll take you some goodies.
Woohoo! All right, Amy, what are you cooking up these days at home?
All the carbs, but I just made an important discovery.
By the way, I saw your Facebook post with the macaroni and cheese heart.
Oh, I know, and I shaped it like a heart.
Aww.
And it wasn't even Stouffer's, but it was Instant Pot with a can of evaporated milk. So nobody gets
really good.
The twist. It's incredibly good. It's like Southern cheat food. But things I discovered about myself. I started a sourdough starter like every other person, like some sort of compulsion. Truthfully, I don't even like sourdough bread that much. I don't. I prefer other types of bread.
I love me some sourdough.
People love it. But you know who's really good at it? Bakers. Really good baker. Is
that your way of saying you're not good at it?
I'm terrible at it, and I don't even like it that much. So what the hell am I doing? So I had this moment where I just killed my sourdough starters yesterday, and we're going to make crackers from it because what I discovered with my offspring, POTUS 2040, who is a baker, she's naturally very careful and precise, it makes incredible crackers, and it's so much easier because they're meant to be flat. So who cares how much leavening it actually has?
Is this the virologist as well?
No, the virologist cooks to survive.
Okay, that's good.
The youngest is the future president.
We just don't want those strings crossing each other to where you're getting virus-laden bread.
No, that's a great point. But the youngest worries about that sort of thing, and the virologist is like, it's not going to kill you, whatever. We've been making mold for years. It's fine. So we talk a lot of science, and we're not eating sourdough bread we made ourselves. So screw you, Internet.
Yeah. How come that wasn't in Mary Meeker's report? The rise of sourdough.
Yeah.
I'm going to make, I do like beer. So I'm going to make beer bread. So I'll keep everybody posted because it's basically like flour and beer.
Could this replace Eddie's banana bread? And this is the goodwill that people can buy and order beer bread from you?
Beer bread?
If I don't ruin it.
Okay.
One thing I saw people making was sourdough like pancake things. They were called Dutch something.
Well, because you have to discard half of your starter, so you keep wasting all this flour and resources, which is what led me to make crackers. Because I couldn't stand I've hard gained flour, throw it out. I can't do that. That violates my nature.
Gotcha.
All right. Maybe Sarah's got a big app that'll solve that problem for you. Sarah, what's your big app of the week?
So my big app of the week is, this is not a recommendation, more of a, like, I'm trying this out so for everybody else's curiosity, and I'll let you know how it goes. You've probably all seen advertisements for Masterclass on, I think they advertise a lot on Instagram.
Please don't say it in front of my phone, Sarah. I think I've got earbuds in because it's popping up like crazy. So I'm not going to repeat it.
Are you listening, Amazon device? I almost said the name of the Amazon device, and I caught myself in time, so go me. Anyway, they're running a BOGO special, and my ex-husband was really interested in it, so we went halvesies on a year of Masterclass. And I am here to tell you I am so far extremely underwhelmed. So I will keep you posted after I've taken a few more different varieties of classes to see if they get any better. But right now, it's just people sort of saying obvious things on camera, and it's not really.
So it's like a Mary Meeker report.
It's very, very Meeker-esque at the moment.
But in the commercials, they've got like Ron Howard and others that are talking, and you think this is going to be something extraordinary. Not so extraordinary?
But it's like I could watch TED Talks and get just as much information. It's not, I thought they would be more structured like classes where you had actual assignments to do and you maybe would follow a curriculum. But it's not like that at all. It's just people sort of saying stuff that, I mean, literally you could Google this information. So. We'll see. It might get better. I paid for a year. There's no other way to pay for it. And
wow.
Well, I feel disappointed.
You just got locked into Ancestry.com.
Yes, it feels like that. I will remind me to give an update maybe in about a month or two, and I'll tell you if my opinion has changed.
Well, I tried Eddie's app that he recommended last week, Apollo, on my iPad as a Reddit reader. And Eddie, I got to admit, I think I have to spend some more time with it because, like, I thought I turned on dark mode, still no dark mode. There's a lot of like it's almost like too many configuration options, and I'm not doing something right because what I think I'm doing doesn't yield the result that would seem logical from doing that. Like hitting the.
Did you turn it off and back on again, Greg?
No. All right.
No, there's
a Meeker report.
I do think that the people who are really interactive with Reddit probably get more use because of like the swipe gestures and the commenting and posting and all those other things. I think those are probably like just scrolling through. I did it because it was just I didn't like the normal Reddit app and how it did it. But I think as I started to interact more on Reddit, commenting and stuff like that, I saw differences there.
Pardon me while I drink from my 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke.
Seriously, did that show up with your wings and $5.99 delivered pizza from Domino's? Because I have to know.
You laugh. I had BW3 wings yesterday.
I don't laugh. I know.
We know. We just know you.
Let's see how well you know me. What flavor wings did I get?
Probably honey barbecue. I don't think you like super hot things.
Sarah, what do you think?
Oh, I don't know I wish I knew what all the flavor options were. Then it would be easier for me to tell you.
Okay.
I don't really know.
Eddie, any thoughts? Any guesses?
Teriyaki. I'm going to say teriyaki.
Oh, damn it. I was going to say teriyaki too because you like Asians. Because you have me on the podcast.
Because I like Asians.
Wow, okay.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
That's so racist, Eddie. I'm really offended.
But you can say that.
That was my joke.
So it wasn't any of those. It was garlic parm.
Oh, but see, mild. Sweet, but mild.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't buffalo.
No, he's on the wild to mild scale. Sorry, Greg.
Yeah. No, I'm very mild, and so you nailed it. I'm like, I think the garlic parm is like the second from the bottom from most spicy.
It's succulent,
but it's super yummy.
Yeah,
it is. And I don't know what they're doing to these chickens, but these wings are gigantic. I mean, like they're like the size of softballs.
No kidding. It's like a linebacker of a chicken. But I've heard that there are these massive, too much product. Like they're overwhelmed with wings because people aren't going to bars anymore and having 25-cent wing night and getting drunk and eating more wings. Oh. So bacon and wings apparently are in excess at the grocery store. So if you make your own, you can get a real bargain on your bacon and your wings.
So we're going to do a new segment every week called Amy's Deal of the Week. I think
I'll tell you what to
Amy's
buy and
big
how to cook
deal.
it. Yeah, what to buy and how to cook it. I'm there.
There you go. All right. I think as we evolve here, we're each going to have our own little segment here. Well, that's fantastic. I think on that note, we're going to have to wrap it up this week. And Eddie, how can people find our videos online?
Nerdherd.tv.
Oh, you nailed it.
Wow.
And
I was worried that you were going to hit me with something else. I had that one.
I'm good. I'm starting you off slow, Eddie. And Sarah, I'm going to throw you a curveball. What's the Twitter handle that people can go to find our tweets?
Oh, I'm taking over from Amy. It is nerd_herd_pod.
Nailed it. You're the best.
Yes.
All right.
I was a little nervous, to be honest.
Amy, how can
look at Amy's face?
Yeah, Amy, how can they find the Slack channel?
She's like quickly searching.
I am, but I can't find it.
Is that why her camera's all of a sudden slowed down? Is because the search engine on Chrome is
Chrome.
like the hamster Chrome is spinning.
Yes.
So what's
Greg?
What's the shortcut for people to find our Slack channel?
Something about Bitly and Nerd Herd?
We're so close. We almost had the
Wow,
random
you
trifecta
really
this
have
week.
not been paying attention. Clearly, you only care about your own stuff.
It's
I bookmarked it.
It's bit.ly/nerdherdpod. So
Yeah.
that's it. Fantastic.
Correct.
Well, I'm going to shake the snow globe up again next week, and we can test each other, and you guys can try to test me too. I guess it's not fair for me just to be throwing it out to you.
Well, you did leave one out, Greg. Where can people leave feedback on our podcast?
They can do that by going to iTunes and just going to the iTunes landing page and leaving us a 5-star review. And snarky comments welcome.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if we taught you nothing. We're not claiming to be masterclass. And it doesn't matter if we're bad journalism because we're not claiming that either. And God knows, don't pay us for singing.
That's right.
Just yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. Thank you, Eddie, Sarah, and Amy. And listen back for us from next week. Thanks.
Bye.
See ya.